In our last episode, we discussed the various teachings about Jesus Christ found in the Quran. This included Mary giving birth to Jesus under a palm tree. It also included Jesus being able to speak as an infant from the cradle. And who could forget the story of the Messiah being taken up to heaven by Allah through the roof of a house so that he wouldn't have to be crucified. As it turns out, these stories are all plagiarized from various fictional sources, including the Apocrypha and the Gnostic second treatise of the Great Seth. If you haven't seen episode 1 yet, go ahead and click here. In this episode, we are going to look at more examples of these divinely inspired stories found in the Quran and where they really come from. Let's get right into it. The Book of Genesis Rabbah, otherwise known as Midrash Rabbah, is a Jewish text that was written sometime around 450 AD. It contains various interpretations of the Book of Genesis from different Jewish rabbis and sages. Listen to this fable of Abraham rejecting idols, then being delivered from a fire. Terah, Abraham's father, was a manufacturer of idols. He once went away somewhere and left Abraham to sell them in his place. A man came and wished to buy one. "How old are you?" Abraham asked him. 50 years, was the reply. "Woe to such a man," he exclaimed. "You are 50 years old and would worship a day-old object?" At this, he became ashamed and departed. On another occasion, a woman came with a plateful of flour and requested him, "Take this and offer it to them." So he took a stick, broke them, and put the stick in the hand of the largest. According to this excerpt from Genesis Rabbah, Abraham's father, Terah, used to make and sell idols. One day, Terah left his son Abraham to look after these idols, but Abraham chose to destroy them instead. When his father returned, he demanded, "What have you done to them?" "I cannot conceal it from you," Abraham rejoined. "A woman came with a plateful of fine meal and requested me to offer it to them. One idol claimed, 'I must eat first,' while another claimed, 'I must eat first.' Thereupon the largest arose, took the stick, and broke them." "Why do you make sport of me?" Terah cried out. "Have they then any knowledge?" "Should not your ears listen to what your mouth is saying?" Abraham retorted. Thereupon Terah seized Abraham and delivered him to Nimrod. Terah came back from his trip to find that all the idols he had built destroyed. He asked his son Abraham what had happened, and Abraham made up this false story about the idols fighting one another over food, until the largest one was the only one left standing. Terah knew that his son Abraham was lying because he was aware of the fact that the idols were nothing but statues. So Terah delivered his son over to Nimrod, and as punishment, Nimrod decided that he would throw Abraham into a fiery furnace. "Behold, I will cast you into it, and let your God, whom you adore, come and save you from it." Now Haran, Abraham's brother, was standing there undecided. "If Abram is victorious," he thought, "I will say that I am of Abram's belief, while if Nimrod is victorious, I will say that I am on Nimrod's side." When Abraham descended into the fiery furnace and was saved, he, Nimrod, asked Haran, "Of whose belief are you?" "Of Abram's," Haran replied. According to these rabbinic legends, Abraham was saved from a fire by God because he refused to worship idols. Now, let's compare these fabled teachings to the equally mythical teachings found in the Quran. Al-Anbiya 51 through 71. "And indeed, we had granted Abraham sound judgment early on, for we knew him well to be worthy of it. Remember when he questioned his father and his people? What are these statues to which you are so devoted? They replied, we found our forefathers worshiping them. He responded, indeed, you and your forefathers have been clearly astray. They asked, have you come to us with the truth, or is this a joke? He replied, in fact, your Lord is the Lord of the heavens and the earth, who created them both, and to that I bear witness. So he smashed them into pieces, except the biggest of them, so they might turn to it for answers. Just like in the writings of Genesis Rabbah, Abraham was opposed to his father and his other countrymen worshipping idols. So he smashed them all into pieces, except for the biggest one. They protested, who dared do this to our gods? It must be an evildoer. Some said, we heard a young man called Abraham speaking ill of them. They demanded, bring him before the eyes of the people so that they may witness his trial. They asked, was it you who did this to our gods, O Abraham? He replied sarcastically, no, this one, the biggest of them did it. So ask them if they can talk. Then they quickly regressed to their original mindset, arguing, you already know that these idols cannot talk. They concluded, burn him up to avenge your gods, if you must act. We ordered, O fire, be cool and safe for Abraham. They had sought to harm him, but we made them the worst losers. From this story alone, we can conclude that whatever Muhammad knew about Abraham was clearly not from the actual Torah itself. Rather, he believed in these rabbinical myths and simply recalled these stories when reciting the Quran. But ancient rabbis aren't the only source of inspiration for the Prophet Muhammad. Have you, O Prophet, thought that the people of the cave and the plaque were the only wonders of our signs? Remember when those youths took refuge in the cave and said, our Lord, grant us mercy from yourself and guide us rightly through our ordeal. So we caused them to fall into a deep sleep in the cave for many years. That is how we caused them to be discovered, so that their people might know that Allah's promise of resurrection is true and that there is no doubt about the hour. Some will say they were 3, their dog was the 4th, while others will say they were 5, their dog was the 6th, only guessing blindly. And others will say they were 7 and their dog was the 8th. Say, O Prophet, my Lord knows best their exact number. They had remained in their cave for 300 years, adding 9. According to the Quran, Allah caused a group of devout Muslims who were being persecuted for their faith to fall asleep in a cave for 309 years. Allah did this to reveal His ability to resurrect the righteous from the dead. What Allah failed to reveal, however, is that this story is stolen from the Latin work of Gregory of Tours. When Christians were terribly persecuted, every endeavor was made to destroy the faith. To escape with their lives, 7 men of Ephesus took refuge in a cave near their city and fell asleep for 200 years till the reign of Theodorus II. On awaking, one of them ventured into the city to see what in the interval had happened, and was overcome with amazement to find the Christian faith triumphant over all other religions. The cross, once the sign of shame and disgrace, now the crown of the emperor and the mark of empire. And nearly the whole people of the land turned Christians. Gregory of Tours was a Gallo-Roman historian who lived until the year 594. He wrote this folklore for fun, as a way to show his admiration for how much Christianity was growing during the course of his lifetime. He never intended for anyone to actually believe this story to be true. Sadly for the gullible Muhammad, he not only believed in this ancient myth, but he went on to copy it into the Quran, serving as means of instruction for his followers. If you remember back to the beginning of episode 1 of this series, I said that one of the many words used to describe the Quran is nazil, which means to come down, as in to come down from heaven. As some of you know, I grew up speaking a dialect of Arabic called Qabayli. There is a word in Qabayli, and that word is noom. Noom means to dream or to fantasize about something. Rather than nazil, I think the word noom is more appropriate when describing the Quran. Because from what we've learned so far about the Quran and its sources, the teachings of Allah and Muhammad are nothing but fantasy. I'll see you again soon for part 3. Until then, salam.